Hi friends, it's Diane, the Creative Inkster, and this is Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, and I'm doing something different for Technique Tuesday. Instead of a live, I'm posting this pre-recorded on Zoom, so I'm really hoping this works out well. It gives me an opportunity to show you my face in the introduction, and then switch down to show you my hands to show you what we're working on. So thanks for watching this interesting new take for me. We're going to share our screen here. And get this going. Never goes as fast as I'd like it to. All right, I've got another camera here that I can show you how to do the technique I want to share. So this is the inspiration. This card, the paper's retired, the stamp set isn't, the ribbons, a whole bunch of stuff's retired, but I love the idea of it. So what we have here is some DSP pieces cut, placed on a layer, and then run through with an embossing folder. Now, the embossing folder used here, I'm not really even sure which one it is, but I think it was one of the winter, I think it's called Winter or Wintry. And it just kind of gives that leafy look. But we have a new one called Fern, and that's the one I want to try with tonight. So let's get our pieces out. We've got a basic card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4 and folded in the middle. I always like to do my scoring on my Simply Scored. I find it gives me a really nice crisp edge. And then I use my bone folder to give me a nice seam here on the fold. The next thing I'm going to use here are a piece of white for the inside. So let's get that put in first. When I use a dark piece of cardstock as my card base, I like to put a piece of white inside. And I have learned over the years that it's a good idea to put that piece in when I make the card, because if I stick them in a pile of cards I'm going to eventually use, then one day when I go to put these cards in use, I have a whole bunch of whites to put in. So good to do that. And of course, if my pattern paper is more of a vanilla, then I will use the vanilla to go with. So then here is my layer that's going to go on top. And this is 4 by 5 1/4. This color is Pale Papaya. I'm not going to emboss it. I'm just going to put it down with dimensionals, actually. I have the minis close at hand. Just grab what you've got. You know, I didn't at first like the minis. I found that they were kind of small and a little bit difficult to work with, but I love the versatility of them because they can get into smaller places when you're trying to pop maybe a flower or something smaller up. Okay, there we go. So we're going to pop this guy up. And then instead of the 6 squares, these were 1.5 inch squares, instead of 6 of them, I'm going to do what I call the triplets. And so I'm going to put 3. So actually this is going to go this way. And then I'm putting them on a same piece here of Pale Papaya, but now I'm thinking that doesn't look so good. Why don't we get a piece of garden green to match? A little bit too much Pale Papaya. So I'm reaching around beside me here to get a piece of garden green. And if these pieces are 1.5 inch square, then I want this to be at least 1 3/4 inch tall. Grab the paper trimmer. See how big this scrap piece is. 1 3/4 inches tall. And I need it to be 5 1/4 wide. There we go. And then I'm going to layer these on however I think they'll look best. And to me, this green piece should go in the middle. I think that looks good like that. And then I can see that I've got a fairly even size border all the way around. So I'm going to grab my adhesive. It can be any kind of adhesive. The great thing is once you put this through an embossing folder, it's going to be really stuck in place well. And I find when I do things like this, either 3 or 4 across, I put the outside ones on first, because I know my measurement that I want around them. I just eyeball this too, like I don't get too carried away. Then when I go to put the center one, if it's off left or right a little bit, it's not going to be quite as noticeable as if I have a piece that's off on the end, if you follow my drift. So I could have moved these in a little bit or made this a little bit smaller. We're going to go with it. It is fine. It is centered. That is good. Now we're going to emboss it. So for this first card, I'm doing two. I'm using the Fern 3D embossing folder. This is newer, and I'm going to pop it in here, and I'll be right back. Just going to pause for 1 second. Now, through the magic of television, I've stepped away and embossed that. And then here's what the piece looks like. It almost looks like it is fabric. It has so much dimension on it. So I'm going to pop this along here, and I have a quick greeting to stick around it on this tag. It's going to look something like that. So let's grab the greeting we wanted to go with on this. What did I have in mind? Let's see. This is the stamp set that matches the paper. Not that that's necessary, but let's see. I was mentioning that this stamp case will tell you if the images you see are 100% or at, say, 90%. So you'll know if you can just pop your label over top, and you're going to see that it fits. So this one says, thank you for inspiring me. Let me see if I can just get thank you out of that. Well, thank you for inspiring me works too. Okay, so see, that fits perfectly on this cute little tag that I already cut. So we will ink it up in Garden Green, which is a prominent color in this pattern paper. Pop it on here. There we go. Give it a second to dry. It's pretty quick, but you know, I'll give it a second. And then we have this really neat, Simply Elegant trim, and it comes in silver and gold. And I think the gold with these tones might be the best choice. And just comes on these little spools. I'm going to actually tie a bow, and I'm going to try to go through that hole in the tag rather than putting it on with a glue dot. I'm actually slipping it through the hole in the tag, and I'm going to tie a bow. Now, if you find that this stuff is a bit unruly, as it can be, just put it between your fingers. It has a little bit of a stretch to it. Not a lot, but a little bit of a stretch or twistiness to it. And if you put it between your fingers, you can get it to go the way that you like, kind of like having that unruly hair in the morning. Here's our bow. There. And one side twisted around, but I'm okay with that. And then this I'm going to glue straight down. And because it's been embossed, I like to use liquid glue when I'm putting this down in place, because liquid glue will get into all the nooks and crannies from the embossed piece. Whereas if I use a tape runner, like Stampin' Seal, I always don't feel like it gets where I need it to go. All right, and so we can put this piece on here. I'm just going to put a couple of dimensionals on my tag, maybe 3 to hold it in place. And then we can say that this card is all done. I don't want to hide that cute little bumblebee. And if you find that your bow and all that's just a little bit goofy and not cooperating, then you can always add a glue dot too. And I decided I need to go back in and retie this, because once I started playing with the tag, it wasn't landing the way I wanted it to. There, that's better. Alrighty, there is my first card, inspired by this one. All right, let's do another one. This time I'm going to use the painted texture embossing folder. This is a larger spaced out image. The tighter the image on your embossing folder, the different look you're going to get on your embossed paper. And instead of doing some small cut pieces, this time I'm using an entire panel. Okay, this is the quickest card. So here is my top folding card in Fresh Freesia. It is 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored in half at 5 1/2, and folded and burnished. Love this color with black. It just pops off the page. Totally. This is a very, very simple card. Now the black I cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and I wanted to use the most of this pattern paper. So I cut it at 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So not as small as I would normally, and it's just going to give a small black border. A tip for you, if you want to punch or die cut something out, actually, why don't I just do that? No, never mind. If you want to, let's just do it. So I'm taking my punch, and because I know this is going to be a thin border and it's going to fill up most of the paper, I can push this all the way in and punch out a few shapes. No one is going to see this unless you do white as your card base. No one's going to see this. It's going to be tucked in behind. So we got to get this on here, and then we're going to emboss it. That's the plan here, folks. So let's add some liquid glue. I think I used Stampin' Seal last time. Whoop, there we go. Liquid glue, which is really my go-to, my favorite adhesive, actually. And because it's in the middle, it's not going to squeeze out of the spot where I did the punching. But why waste that paper, right? If you're going to be using it for a layer, which is a perfect idea, why waste it? And as I mentioned, because it's going on a colored cardstock, you're not even going to see through there that you've got those punched pieces out. No one is the wiser unless they take your card apart. All right, I'm going to pause again. I'm going to run this through the embossing folder, painted texture. I'll be right back. Here we go. So there's our painted texture. You can see on the back how it came through, and on the front, very different indeed than the much tighter embossing that comes with something like Fern 3D. Always good to try stuff out because you never know how it's going to look. And this piece I think was going to go down. I'm going to do a greeting. I'm going to add some leaves. And I'm going to add, this time out of that trim, I'm going to use the silver instead of the gold. I think I'm going to use the thank you again. Just want to clean it off because it has garden green. And this time I'm going to use Memento Black. There we go. Let's make sure I get all of the green off of there. All kinds of things hiding under here. Okay, so there's my Memento for a nice crisp black on the wording. The tag is the same size. There we go. Thank you for inspiring me. Give it a few seconds to dry. And then we're going to add some of our, as an idea from actually last night's Facebook Live. I'm going to add these leaf pieces on here. May as well not let them go to waste, right? So there's that. And this one. Just making sure that's going to fit. Oh yeah, that's going to fit perfectly. And then we'll add these little floral pieces. I don't know, they're like flowers. So I like this black look with punched shapes and dies because it looks like it is a silhouette. That's the kind of look you get. Now I'm going to add some dimensionals to pop this up a little bit. I know I have some adhesive on there, but it's okay to cover it up. I'm just using these lovely little minis. Peel that little guy off. There we go. And it's going to land somewhere in the center. I could put it off center a little bit. I know that I forgot to put this through, but I have enough space because it's popped up to be able to do that. And how much do I use? Oh, I don't know. I just use a bunch. If I waste it, I waste it. I don't worry too much about that. And I think the silver with these two colors is a nice match. Fresh Freesia and black and white. And this one, oh yeah, I like that bigger bow. Let's leave that one bigger. And then this goes on top of the card base, and I'm going to glue this one down just in case anyone takes a peek underneath. I don't want them to see the punched shapes out from the center there. My liquid glue is getting to the end, starting to not want to come out quite as easily. Always check your card that your opening is in the right direction when you go to place your layer down. I can't tell you how many times I goofed that up. You know what? This card base is actually 4.5. I must have cut it at 4.5 instead of 4.25. So I'm going to move this over to the left like that. And then I'm going to cut this excess off and have it be, because I really was looking for the even look of the border. So if you ever find that you do that, because I have done that before, when I cut pieces to use them as layers, then the one piece I leave behind usually is a little bit wider. All righty, so there is this very quick, pretty card. There's our triplets, what I call the triplets. I think I might, in hindsight, have embossed that in some way. And the card that started it all, the inspiration with the 6. So I hope you like that. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful evening. I'll be back live next time. Bye for now.